My buddy Jay Graham up in Washington State made a pusher trailer for his Mitsubishi I-miev. He took a Volkswagen Carmen Ghia and the rear end of it with the motor and made a trailer out of it, put a hitch on his electric I-miev, and from the inside of his car he starts the pusher motor and it pushes the car. He takes his foot off the accelerator, and the regenerative braking charges up the battery. He can go a few hundred miles on a couple gallons of gas, but he's got this big ugly Carmen Ghia rear end trailer that's wider than the whole car, being towed on a trailer. And then you don't want it to end up doing something like a pitman maneuver, where you know how the police come up and hit your back bumper and then they push your car to the side and make it spin out. Yeah, you wouldn't want something like that to ever happen. But I love his idea. It's a great idea. So I was thinking, I used to have a couple of Silverwing 600 motorcycles, and they're great. Fully automatic, CVT transmission, fuel injected, lightweight, modern, sorta. I mean, anyway, I picked this one up. It runs really good, actually. And I am considering stripping the whole back end of it. Basically, the motor ends here, right here in the front, and then to the back wheel. So you would need everything from there back. You could get rid of all the plastic and even the brake calipers, any kind of extra weight you could just remove, and then use this motor as a pusher motor on a hinge point on the back of the car. You could even put the gauges. The speedometer is a drive-by-wire, or it's electronically connected to the motor, and so you'd be able to see the speed of the rear wheel of the motorcycle motor, and match the speed before you use some sort of a mechanism to drop it down onto the ground, if that was even necessary. You've still got some experimenting to do and stuff, but yeah, the motor would hook right onto the back and stick out probably 40 inches or so, and then have the controls somewhere inside the cabin of the car. And of course you'd want to make it so you could remove it and leave it home. Just unhitch it and unplug it and leave it home when you don't need it, kind of like Jay does with his pusher trailer. If I remember right, the Carmen Ghia's put out like 44 horsepower or something like that, and he would just leave it in fourth gear and use an actuator to release the clutch, and so that the pusher motor would kick in and start and push. This one has 49 to 52 horsepower, depending on which forum you read. And yeah, there's no clutch. It's just CVT. Just give it the throttle and go. This thing's a 600cc motor. It's really fast. Like I said, I've had a few of these bikes. You can go from 0 to 100 miles an hour, lickety split, down the highway, and this bike won't even bat an eye at it. Take another quick look at it here from the top. We've got the front of the motor here, like the head, and then the ports here, intake, fuel injection, air filter, battery, which you can relocate the battery. And the fuel tank is here. You can see this is the whole fuel tank down here. So that could be relocated. And it even has a digital fuel gauge on the dash, which is pretty cool. The back of the bike, lots of things to remove all of this and that, and relocate the air filter. You could probably put a slimmer exhaust on there. Do you need the shocks? Depends on how you mount it on the hinge point. Because it's so light, you got to worry about traction too. So you got to keep it on the ground. May have to create some sort of a mechanism to raise and lower the back of the bike up off the ground, or push down against the ground for traction. And in that case, you wouldn't really need the shocks. You would just use that airbag or something. But yeah, looks to me like a pretty good donor vehicle. It was a theft recovery, and it has a salvaged title. And so this wouldn't really be a pusher trailer as much as it would be a drop axle. And that would be the idea, is to make it a drop axle. Let's go ahead and start it up. Pull the brake. Press the start button. Okay. Runs pretty good. See here. Got 40,600 miles on it. You can see the gauges here, temperature, fuel, the tach, speedometer. All of those could be wired up to a display up in the car. One thing to consider would be cooling, because if you're that close to the back of the car, it's not going to get any air to the little radiator. It's got a radiator and a fan here, so that might need to be modified. Of course it would be, since it's up here, and that part of the bike would be cut off anyway. All right, so that is the concept of the pusher drop axle for the 2012 all-electric Mitsubishi I-miev, which only normally has about a 50-mile range. But Jay says he's gone a few hundred miles with his pusher trailer and didn't have to charge or get gas or anything, just using the Volkswagen Carnegie trailer.